we are just a group of dedicated activists. Some of us do some level of campaigning and electioneering every election. And we were trying to just really figure out, like, what is the best way for us to have impact in this election, which is a very unusual election, because not only because of COVID, but because, you know, we're getting just a barrage of disinformation. And I think it's making us all feel really exhausted and demoralized, because it's very hard to talk about the election when the voters are saying things that are just completely insane. And even people who are with us are still getting affected by disinformation. So it's a very unusual election. We feel like the best way to have impact on this election right now is to really leverage our personal relationships with people. Because most campaigns are asking people to just phone bank, and I don't know if you guys have done phone banking, but it can be very difficult because a lot of people don't answer the phone, and also when they do pick up the phone, often they're just not interested in talking, and so it can be, it's discouraging. So I have done a lot of phone banking even this cycle, and I have found it really difficult to have productive conversations. And so we've been trying to develop tools here to really figure out how to help people, help their friends and family figure out a plan to vote. Okay? It's not enough to kind of get them to say, oh, I would definitely vote, because the logistical details, barriers are so high this year, right? Because of all the confusion with the post office, because of the safety issues. So we want to kind of hold people's hand through the process of coming up with a plan that's going to work for them, and then following up with them to make sure that, say, they have met their deadlines for turning in an application for absentee ballot, they have registered to vote, they have checked their registration status to make sure that they're current, right? And that they know when early voting is, they know when it ends, because I have found that in many places, there's a gap between when early voting ends on an election day, and a lot of people don't know that. They think, okay, early voting starts on October 19th. They're going to think it's going to run all the way through until election day. And often that's not true, right? And so, and since we know that the election rules, not only in general are different everywhere, okay, they're also changing locally because they're trying to adapt to these challenges. So they're adding drop-off boxes for mail-in ballots. So there's a lot of changes that's really hard for people to track, okay? And so, so what we are doing is, like, you guys are gonna become election experts so that you can help your friends and family vote. And becoming an expert, or what I want to call is a guardian of democracy, because that's, I think, what this election is about. To be a guardian democracy, not only do we have to really have a handle on the logistical stuff, we're not going to memorize the voting laws for every single place, but what we can do is know how to get that information quickly, okay? And so, and Margie's going to show you some tools that she and I have put together that can help you do that. But we're also going to become experts on how to deal with disinformation, because part of what's happening is, like, they're weaponizing disinformation to discourage turnout, sometimes with just wrong information about how to vote, but also insane disinformation designed to make us feel discouraged and disconnected from reality, like literally, I think, driving us insane. And so we have to mentally be prepared for just how they're going to weaponize all that insanity making stuff, and have talking points that will help us talk to voters without freaking out. Because if you're talking to someone and say, hey, are you going to vote? And they say, well, I just found out Biden is a pedophile. Okay, that's going to make us feel totally triggered and unable to have a conversation that we need to have, right? Okay, so we are going to work together to come up with talking points that will help us deal with situations like that without having a meltdown. Because I personally had a situation with my own mother, who's a Democrat, who's going to vote for Biden. But she said to me the other morning, like, oh, it's really too bad Kamala Harris is not eligible to be president because her parents are immigrants. And my response to her was, I started screaming because I felt so frustrated. I just started screaming. So that's not where we want to be. But, that's where a lot of us are. We just feel besieged. And so we're going to have to kind of create like a community of people who we can support each other through this. And we're going to lead other people to the promised land, because it's going to be a very difficult journey. And it's going to feel like at times like somebody has to part the Red Sea for us to get there, because it just seems like there's so many barriers. But we've got to get there, and we have to commit to doing it. That we're not going to get distracted. We're going to stay calm, and we're going to make sure that we vote, our people vote, and we win. Right? We've got to do this. Otherwise, I just don't know what else to say. So, I want to ask Margie, I don't know if she's ready, to show us the spreadsheet that is extremely helpful in helping us contact our friends and keep track of them. And so Margie, I want to ask you to do two things. Go over the spreadsheet, but also show people the Facebook search tool. Yeah.
Okay. Can you enable screen sharing?
Yes.
I've been trying to support some friends to get on this call, but I think we just decided I'm going to send them a recording. And now you should be able to see my screen. And all of you will be able to access a spreadsheet that looks exactly like this. And you can use this to really help your friends and family, help you to keep track of your conversations with friends and family around a voting plan. And if you're lucky, not just a voting plan, but also an engagement plan to help them help their friends. So basically, this is a spreadsheet that lets you write down the voter's name. And you can fill in a state. So let's say I put in, John, where did you say you're from?
South Carolina.
Okay, South Carolina. So when I fill that in, this automatically fills in the next field and says that's a second tier state. So it's not one of the big battleground states, but they're definitely important winnable races in South Carolina. And you'll see, as I'm going to scroll all the way to the right, you're going to see a whole bunch of other columns that automatically filled in as well. So I can see, okay, in South Carolina, it looks like you don't have early voting in South Carolina, which is, important to knowing how you're going to plan to vote.
You didn't know half the stuff.
What did you say?
I didn't even know half the stuff.
Yeah. So the deadline to request an application to vote is October 30th. can I submit my application online? Most places you can. And your ballot, of course, needs to be received by November 3rd. So this autofill is just one way that you can help your friends, but we don't, want to consider this to be the information. Really consider the voters' state board of elections and local boards to be, the most important information. You can track your relationship. You could say just like distant Facebook friend. If it's just one of your Facebook friends that you barely ever talk to, you're going to really think about how you're going to approach them a little differently. When you contacted them, you can ask them if they're registered to vote, and get to know their party registration. And obviously, if they're not a Democrat, then you don't really necessarily have to spend a lot of time, unless they're not registered to vote yet,
What if it's someone like me who has an eye?
So someone like you, we would say and then I would talk to you and say, hey, are you planning on voting for Biden this year? And you say, well, I don't know, thinking about it, and then we can have a conversation from there. And Annabelle will talk with you about some resources for really engaging in concept conversations, not just the bare bones facts, because you will encounter some of your friends who, may be on the fence, or maybe hearing the misinformation, or, may not be ready to just go out and vote for Biden. So this kind of helps you to inform, how you're going to talk to your friend about the election. But if they're like a Trump voter, then you're like, hey, great. And then you don't have to guide them through coming up with a plan. John, do you have a plan to vote?
Me? In person.
Okay, in person on election day? Well, you don't have early voting, so I guess it's definitely.
All right. I'm doing it, mask and all.
Awesome. Okay, so that was easy, and I suspect you're very likely to vote.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay. Are you interested in becoming a poll worker?
Never had before. Probably not.
Okay. So, a lot of people don't want to become poll workers for many reasons. A lot of people are appropriately afraid of COVID, but we do have some friends who may have already recovered from COVID, or who may be young and feel like they've got strong immune systems, who, we can ask.
Well, let me just explain why this is important, John. Republicans are recruiting 50,000 people as poll workers and watchers. And they have spent a lot of money on it. And part of the fear is that those poll workers are going to suppress voting. They're going to engage in voter intimidation or other shenanigans. And so it's really important to try to figure out how we can get more of our people to work as poll workers. And you can get paid in some cases, like I'm getting paid in Pennsylvania to work as a poll worker. Anyway, so this gives you an opportunity to let people know that they can sign up to do that. And it would be a big help at powerthepolls.org. But, we can go on, Margie.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a column here of, are they also interested in volunteering? And I think our theory of change here is that, there's a lot of campaigns that are having volunteers call strangers, but we're calling friends and family. But we can ask our friends if they're willing to engage in talking to friends and family. And we think, I was talking to someone earlier who lives really close to Wisconsin, and she's got a lot of friends in Wisconsin. And I don't know how many votes, Hillary lost by in Wisconsin, but literally if she found, 25 people in Wisconsin, and 5 of those were each willing to take on 100 people, we could literally flip a state with this project. So, John, it looks like you are already interested in volunteering, so I'll say that is a yes. And, you know, you can consider ordering a Biden sign.
Or you can get them for free in some cases. Check it to, you know, with the campaign office near
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So that's the basic idea behind this spreadsheet. And, you know, it's very straightforward. We do have some friends who aren't technical. And in fact, one of them tried to get on this call but wasn't able to. I'll send her a recording. So, you know, some people who aren't comfortable with spreadsheets can do the same thing. But we're just asking people to really make a concerted effort to identify your friends. And I want to show you one way that you can do that. So for instance, I'm on Facebook, and I know not everyone is, but for those of us who are on Facebook, a little tip that's helpful is I can say my friends in Wisconsin. And I don't know if I have any friends in Wisconsin, to tell you the truth. I might come up with nobody. Okay, I came up with one person. He's actually the chair of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin. So he's making it happen. I'm going to say my friends in Florida. And I got a list by default of 3 friends who live in Florida. And then I can click, I'm just going to move this little thing here. Then there's a see all link. And now I see, wow, I've really got a number of friends who live in Florida. And if you want, you can manually now. I happen to know that some of these people are not likely to vote, you know, for Biden. So I'm not going to reach out to them about election engagement. But other people really are engageable. Like here's someone who used to live in Baltimore, used to be a member of the Baltimore Songwriters Association. And wow, that's really cool. Like I can send him a message. I also, so, you know, you can copy and paste an email into your own personal sheet. So here's my sheet. But what I did was I wrote a little bit of code where I was able to get everybody from Pennsylvania into a list. And it'll take me a moment to dig up that code. So I'll hand things back and we'll come back and I'll show you that.
Okay.
Third piece of technology.
Oh, Margie,
Yeah.
before you get to that, I want to show people another tool for finding friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So
stop sharing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing I just learned about is there's an app called Vote Joe. Okay, Vote Joe, Joe, that you can find in your app store. That is an official Biden campaign relational tool. And if you sync it with your contacts, you're going to be able to get information, voter information on people in your contact list. Okay, so I'm gonna just show you what that looks like, what kind of information we're talking about here. And I just learned about this few minutes ago, in fact, but it looks like it's going to be helpful, you know. So this is the app, Vote Joe. And then this is, oh, I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, can you see that? It just has like the name and, you know, if they're registered or unregistered, if they're super voters and things like that. So it has like information so that you can say, okay, hey, are you registered to vote? You don't have to say, oh, I know you're not registered, but you can have a conversation with them based on the information that you're learning, right? And so that's another tool that can help us like go through our contacts and actually have at our fingertips some voter information, and then, you know, combine that with the spreadsheet. You can have a really good conversation that will really give you the tool to give them a plan or develop a plan. And that's really what we are after in the end, is like commitment to vote and a plan. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there. Let's pause there for a second, Margie, to see if people have any questions. And then we'll come back to the third tool and the talking.
I have a question.
Yes, Bob. Mm-hmm.
Does that app you just demonstrated give party affiliation if they are registered as a member of a party like Democrat or Republican?
Yeah, I think it does, but I think it depends on where they are at. So, and then some places it says Democrat, some don't. So I think it sort of depends on where they are.
One other question, does
Mhm.
it allow you to mass text your contact list?
Um, I I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I have to look into it. But what I recommend is like downloading it.
I will.
Yeah, and just playing around with it.
Yep.
Any other questions about what we've gone over so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, is it best to call personally each person that I'm going to contact as opposed to texting, like a personal call?
Uh-huh.
Or
Right.
doesn't it matter?
Yeah. And again, this is something we can like all crowdsource because we're all trying this. What I've been doing is sending them a message and just saying, hey, I want to check in with you about the election. How are you
Mhm.
feeling? Do you know how you're going to vote this year? And then saying, yeah, I don't know yet. I'll probably do mail-in ballot. I'm not sure. Hey, I would love to check in with you and talk to you about it. Can you give me a call? So I've been asking people to call me, but it sort of depends on the person and the reaction I get. So
I
I
also,
would, mhm.
oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would just say rely on your knowledge of that person, you know. Yeah. For
I mean,
some young people, I've been told like young people are allergic to phones.
oh,
And
they
they
don't.
just, yeah, they don't want to talk. But so it really depends on their preference.
My
And
other question is, I didn't even know. I
mhm,
found out today watching Bill Maher
mhm.
that there's early voting in Pennsylvania. Early voting, does that mean in-person voting? Or
Mhm.
does that mean dropping your ballot off? Like what exactly is
Yeah,
early voting? Because
yeah,
I've always voted on election day and
right,
you know,
right.
at my
Yeah,
designated.
yeah. Just to clarify, just quickly, early voting is in-person voting, just like you would on election day. So you
Mhm.
go in just like election day, just that it's prior to election day. In-person absentee voting is different.
Okay.
Is when you can drop off in person a ballot or fill out the so-called absentee ballot in person and leave it there, so it's two different, slightly different things. But again, like each locality handles things a little differently.
So
Okay,
from my
so
area, I need to contact someone
w-
from
w-
election.
yeah, so why don't we move on for right now,
Okay,
and then I can talk to you more about your situation.
sure.
Okay, Shui, did you have a question?
Yeah, I remember I missed part of this. Can we get their phone number?
From the app?
Yeah,
Well, it depends on what you have in the contacts. It doesn't add any information about contacts. So if you have their phone number in your contacts, then the
no,
app will show it to
I
you.
meant with the ones that you get when you say anybody I know in Florida or anybody I know in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Facebook generally like gives people the option to reveal their phone number or not. And so it depends on their privacy setting. So what I would do is like send them a message on Facebook and say, hey, can you call me, and give them your number. Okay.
Okay.
So why don't we go back to Margie and then the other tools. Margie, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. So what I shared with you so far was our spreadsheet, and each of you will get an individual spreadsheet. And I shared with you this little trick, and you could type my friends who live in Pennsylvania or just my friends in Pennsylvania. And then I showed you that you can click on see all. Now in Pennsylvania, I've got a lot of friends. And I thought, well, what about those people who live in Pennsylvania and they want to make a list, but they don't want to have to hand type it? So what I'm about to show you is really a little more technical than most people are used to doing. But for those of you who aren't scared of sort of a little bit more technical, I will show you this technique. I am clicking the right mouse button and I'm clicking on the word inspect. And I have Chrome open, and then I'm going to open up something called the console. And then Facebook says, whoa, this is intended for developers. If somebody told you to copy paste something, then it's a scam. Well, if that scares you off, then don't do it. But I'm a developer and I wrote this, so I know what it's doing. I just have to, this is oddly, I'm having a little trouble accessing it at the moment. So I'm having a little bit of trouble.
Margie, why don't we come back to that and I can show people the talking points?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So as you guys know, it's, you know, important to figure out how to respond to people when they say things that are misinformed. And so we're working with the disinformation marketing PR person on coming out with some handy talking points. And this is all going to be constantly evolving and getting tweaked. But so, you know, we're definitely open to feedback on this. So that's what I'm going to share. And you guys will have access to all of this. Okay, so so there's some basic language about how to talk about Biden, and I like to point out that the economy is better when we have Democratic presidents, because a lot of people don't know that, and they think Trump is good on the economy. But these are the talking points. Like, Democrats have become too socialist and extreme. The left is violent, lawless, against law enforcement. Trump is better for the economy. Trump is a strong leader. Biden is weak. Biden suffers from dementia. You know, I mean, they're just all these things, and we are constantly adding more to it. And so you can, this is the kind of thing you could actually either say if you're talking to them, and you can paraphrase it, of course, or you can copy and paste. And some of our volunteers have been doing that, especially if there's like an online exchange, to go ahead and copy and paste it. So here's an example about abortion, that like abortions go down during Democratic administrations. And also that, you know, do you want basically Republican rhetoric or Democratic results? Because we all want to reduce abortion. And so that seems to be effective. I've actually used this already a few times and it was very effective. But even if you don't persuade people, you might get them to be quieter because you're talking to them in a calm way without belittling them. Because that's what they like to see often, is for us to get triggered and angry and stammering and just red-faced. You know, they call that owning the left. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to, you know, give them that pleasure. So we want to stay calm and be very matter-of-fact in how we talk about this without calling them names, without telling them they're stupid, but just say, actually, abortions go down during Democratic administrations, and not engage them at that emotional gutter level. So this is one of the tools that you'll be getting access to after the call. Okay, so Margie, I'm not sure if people are ready for like the really technical information.
So what I want to say, first of all, is that it's actually not that hard to do.
Uh-huh.
So I'll share it just so that you know what it is that, you know, you have the possibility of doing. And then if anyone needs help, we can talk through it. Also, I just sent the link to the talking points.
Mhm.
So again, you know, I've gone in and I've typed in my friends who live in Pennsylvania. I'll do it again. And I'm going to click on see all because it only shows me the first 3. And then I'm right clicking and choosing inspect and then console. And then I get a little cursor down here. And, you know, because I copied and pasted that other thing, I'm going to paste this one line of code that I wrote. I'm very proud of it. And voila, it gives me the list, which is great because I can just copy and paste that list into my spreadsheet, you know.
That's great. So we can do a little video tutorial on that for people who need it. So we're gonna edit what you just did and create a little 2-minute video tutorial. Thank you so much, Margie. Okay, so.
And I'm gonna send that one line of code and whoops, nope, but now I've got my list. So I'll send that one line of code.
Well, I'm gonna put it in the handbook, Margie.
Okay.
So yeah, but the people don't have to copy and paste. So we have a little handbook that will have all the links and all the tools on it. So you don't have to remember all the different links. So I'm gonna go to the handbook really quickly, and these are all things that we could help. You know, we could use your help, like figuring out how to improve. But basically, our strategy is to beat Donald Trump. So, you know, it is important to emphasize that we want you to look for friends in battleground states, and make sure that you get in touch with them and ask them, you know, how they are planning on voting. You know, I mean, but that doesn't exclude like reaching out to people, all your friends and family in California or wherever you are. But it's just for us, you know, strategically, it's important to make sure that we do everything we can in our power to win in battleground states, right? So this is the kind of little handbook that we're continue to improve and write. But these are the battleground states. So top tier, you're going to see, you know, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, Nevada, Texas, and Georgia. We may need to add Minnesota on here because I just found out it's close to Minnesota as well. Second tier means like, you know, these aren't, you know, we're more likely to win these, but it's also includes 2 states with important Senate races. So second tier, sorry, second tier includes like more likely to vote Democratic or lean right that are like less competitive, less critical. But South Carolina and Kentucky have very important Senate races, which is why they're on this list. And this has some language in it as well that, again, you know, we're going to continue to add to. What I like to do is, you know, after I check in with them, I ask them to call me. Another thing I do is check to see what they have been posting on Facebook. If they're posting things like, oh, I'm really upset about the post office, then gives you a way to start a conversation with them. Like, oh, I just saw your post about the post office. It's really upsetting. Could we talk about the election? But because I feel like I do better when I talk to people on the phone, I like to ask people to call me. And then I also plan on contacting them periodically to say, hey, I just want to remind you that the deadline for absentee ballots is Friday. Did you get that in yet? You know, so it's like going beyond just coming out with a plan to like sending them nudges along the way to make sure that they don't miss any deadlines, because a lot of people do. because they forget what the deadlines are. They can never remember all of them, you know. So, you know, the other thing is we want to really focus on training our volunteers to be really comfortable having conversations with people. Oh, sorry, Heather, I didn't realize you were waiting to come in. And so that's something that we're gonna, as a community, spend a lot of time talking about. Is like, how can we be more persuasive? How can we stay calm? How do we be effective? So there's gonna be a lot of webinars and training along the way, so that you guys feel really good about your communication skills and resources. The other thing we like to emphasize in our community is the need for self-care, because it's just draining and exhausting to be engaged in an election. So, you know, Margie developed really great training on how to eat real food, healthy food, so that we stay healthy. Christy can help us with things like meditation and sleeping, finding joy, things like that, so that we can really stay healthy through this process, because, you know, that's a very serious danger with this election, is that people are so exhausted they can't volunteer and they don't show up to vote. I also teach how to create social media content really easily. So things that anybody can do, but also really powerful tools that can make it seem like you're a pro at this. So I've been doing these trainings. The next one is actually on Monday, and I can send you guys a link for that in the chat after I'm done with this. We also have a course online, countmeintowin.org, on how to avoid getting hacked and making sure that we're secure online. And every week we have a Facebook show with a disinformation expert. Her name is Deb. And we're going to go over misinformation that's out there right now and how we can respond to it. So that's Thursdays at 4 p.m., but you know, it's going to be recorded so you can watch it anytime. And we've done 2 already, but we're going to do it every week. And she also helped develop the talking points. And believe me, just like working with Deb has made me feel better about everything, because I don't feel so helpless when I come across these situations. So she's amazing. So I recommend that you guys watch some of those. Another thing we're going to work on is figuring out how each of us can really help protect the vote. So that's another area that we would, as guardians of democracy, we would like for you guys to learn about together with us. So we're going to be organizing that webinar and recording it. And then we don't quite know what the answer is for number 8, how to prepare for worst case scenario with Trump just losing and then not leaving. And Christy, who's not on the call, but she's a member of the team, she's been sort of figuring out some contingency plan ideas so that we have something, so we're not totally unprepared. Because really, if you think about it, we think this election could go on at some level until January, when inauguration happens, that there could be lawsuits, there could be protests, and we just don't really know exactly what to expect, but we don't want to be caught totally unprepared and get paralyzed and shut down. So we just want to be able to talk through all these different eventualities so that we can lead, because we need people to take the lead, you know. So, and then we're constantly going to be supplying you guys with resources, links to things, and so on. So that's the advantage of being part of this community where people are sharing together. We have a group that we've been using on Telegram, which is like an encrypted messaging app. And we like using it because it just makes us feel like safer, because we're not giving our information to God knows who. So it's an encrypted app. But if people don't feel comfortable using that, we also have a group on Facebook, and I will pop all those links in the chat when I pause. Anyway, so that's kind of it for right now in terms of like some of the materials we've been developing. Any questions? Thea, you have a question.
Oh, hold on. I don't have a question. I was commenting or trying to comment a while back on some of the talking points, and I can get into this with you a little later if you'd like. So in mental health, we do something where we acknowledge and validate someone's concerns. So I think that this would work very well. It's a very strategic maneuver. We say, yes, I understand that this is a concern. And then you use questions to help self-determine, come to their own answers. And I actually have made a word list, which again, I can send to you and go over later, on some things that were said in the talking points that I think could be kind of switched around to be a little less snippy, especially, well, there was one I felt was snippy, but like abortion, we could talk about why abortion is lower than any time in history. Anyway, quickly,
okay.
me.
So you can comment on into the doc. So okay, so I recommend that you do that. That's really valuable. Thank you so much, Thea. Okay, anybody else with a question about anything Margie and I have covered so far?
Victoria, go ahead. Make sure you're muted.
Hi, thank you. A couple of quick questions. How soon can we see that video of today?
I'm sorry, video of today? Oh, today, this call? Oh, yes. I should have the recording within, maybe an hour. So I can send it to you as a link so you can watch.
Thank you. And then as far as some of the to come pieces, like we can get what you've done so far today, the print, right? And then how do we get the updates? Is there a website we can go to instead of you having to distribute and redistribute?
Well, we would like to see if people can join either the Telegram or the Facebook group. So we can share information there on the updates.
Is Facebook a closed group?
Yeah, it's a private group, and I invite you to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Victoria. Anybody else with a question?
Shui, make sure that you unmute yourself because we can't hear you.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Shui. I just unmuted you.
Okay, we can all get onto the Facebook group?
Yes,
And we just go into what?
Yeah, I'm gonna invite you guys. Margie and I will invite you to the group, but I would share the link to it in the chat in a minute after I find it. Okay. Anybody else with a question? Okay. Okay.
I do.
Yes.
I didn't notice in the chat, did Margie put that one piece of code in there, or is it on the Google Doc?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the training, the training document.
Okay.
And I'll also add it here as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those, but we'll make a video for those that aren't already comfortable with this kind of thing.
Yeah, so you're gonna get information we've covered in 3 different ways. We're gonna share the recording of this call, and we're gonna share with you documents that have links, and we're gonna invite you to the Telegram and Facebook groups. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Let's see. If there are no other questions, what I want to do next is to just let you guys know that we have trained some coaches. Peter is one, Margie and I are there. Christy's not here. She's another coach. We're hoping Louise and Ray also on the call will also be coaches, so that that everyone would get paired up with the coach. So when Bob feels like, oh, I don't remember how to do this, or Diane has a question, you're going to be assigned to your own coach on our team who can give you that personal guidance. But we're also looking for other people who want to become coaches. So, Heather, Thea, if you guys are interested, we would love to have your help helping other people do this, because we're holding people's hand, and we're holding each other's hand through this very difficult situation that we're in. But it's, as I said, I feel like we're being guardians of democracy, because it's so important that we get this election right. Okay, so everyone's going to get a coach. You're going to get invited to the groups. You're going to get access to these materials and the recording. Okay, to the call. Anybody else?
I have a question, which is there anyone who, would just rather do this in a notebook than on a spreadsheet? If that's your more comfortable way of doing it, then we're all for it. Victoria, you would rather just kind of handwrite people's names. Yeah, so, as long as you're doing this in a very, concerted way, that's wonderful. Shuey, you look a little puzzled.
I don't know which I want. I don't want to write names, but if you can send me a list and I can copy it out.
Yeah, so I'm available to provide technical support if people do want to use a spreadsheet but haven't used a spreadsheet before. I can help you to, learn how to do that. And actually, maybe we could stay on this call a little longer to do a training like that, just to get you started.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a link to the Facebook group. Okay, any other questions? Okay, no comments. Okay, well, we have meetings where you can check in as frequently as you'd like, but the important thing is that you stay connected with us in some way, so that we can really create a strong community of people who can be resilient and take on leadership right now in our country. So whether it's Telegram or Facebook or both, or you join us on these calls, please stay connected with us and let's do this together. We're having a lot of impact already, and Ray, who's going to focus on Spanish language outreach, I really believe like Ray can single-handedly bring in thousands of immigrant voters that would not have voted. So we can have impact. And what we're hoping, our dream is to reach like 10,000 voters in each of the top tier battleground states, because that could be the margin of victory in all those states. Yes, John?
All right. Just something to add on top of all the talking points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if we could, to reach out to, like, say, some of the Christian voters, if we can add in Bible quotes to support, on top of, Biden, etc., on what we want to accomplish in terms of, like, say, social safety, help and all that, and in fact, including, helping immigrants and so forth. Because I think the Bible will help you reach out to, that group of people to reach out more.
Yes. Yeah, we actually have a whole strategy trying to reach out to Christian voters in particular Catholic voters. And we are actually working on talking points and resources for that exact thing. So, you know, I'm working with my pastor on it, and we're making progress. We're going to make videos as well. So, yeah, so it's very important. I mean, you know, I'm a Christian, and I think it's important to figure out how to speak to that group. Okay, Crystal? Crystal, you're on mute. Okay.
What are we doing to reach out to marginalized groups? Because I mean, that's where I kind of work at, in areas where there's marginalized groups. That's the area I've been focused on. So how does this reach out to them?
Yeah, I mean,
how are we reaching out to those groups?
Yeah, what we want to do is, and this is a really good project
Does that
for.
not make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So, so what we are trying to do is find people in those marginalized groups to activate their networks. So you know people in those groups, Crystal, right? So ask them to participate in this and reach out to their friends and family. So I'm working on Asian American groups right now to make sure that we can reach people that don't get, they're not identified by the campaigns because they don't have language proficiency. So, because campaigns use phone banking to identify likely voters. And if you don't speak English, you're not going to be identified as a likely voter, and you don't get any GOTV materials or outreach. So I'm trying to work on that problem. And so is Ray and Peter. Peter is in fact going to help take the lead on making sure that we reach Asian American groups, as Ray is leading the effort with Latino groups. And so, you know, the best way to reach people in any group is to ask them to join us and activate their networks, recruit volunteers, contact their friends and family. Okay, any other question? Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this. And it means a lot that you guys spent time with us today, and know that like we're very accessible. I am constantly online. You can reach me really anytime. Honestly, feel free to contact me anytime. I'm happy to like talk to you, and just let's hold our hands through this and win, you know. So thank you, everybody. Okay, and yeah, Margie and I will stay on if you guys have any other comments or questions or need help with anything.
Thank you, Annabelle.
Thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate this.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.